Look, everybody. Look. The name of this channel is Nerds Feed. They're just an innocent nerd, just like you. They're just trying to not be bigoted against LGBT people or racist or anything like that. They just are talking about some discrepancies that they have with this franchise. Not racist at all, I promise you. But for real, let's get into this shit. Okay, man, check me out. Transformers Earthspark is probably one of the more, along with IDW and Align continuity, one of the more progressive Transformers production. While having mostly cast of people that are people of color and having a strong black female protagonist, having a man that's doing something besides combat and who's more into the scientific side of things, and having a story about two young black kids, there's also a message of just all around anti-fascism in this video. I will link a video by this guy named Dr. Lockdown in the description of this video because he can probably break down a lot of discrepancies and stupid things said about this show probably a little bit better than I can, especially if you like stuff like this. You like to listen to like nerd culture videos and you like to listen to breakdowns and stuff. You can probably do better than me. But Transformers Earthspark is just a jewel of anti-fascist propaganda as a cartoon, and it will do nothing but educate your children and make your children better people and better people in society. So check me out, man. Transformers Earthspark, came out, I believe, the end of last year in December. I remember watching the first 12 episodes at work and just being engaged with how different the story was. We got a Transformers show that kind of reminds me of Life After Hate, especially with Megatron. Megatron in this show, unlike many others, is not the main protagonist. The main antagonist in this show is this dude named Mandroid. Spoilers coming up. Mandroid hates all Transformers, regardless of what race or faction that they are. There's also a new version of Transformers outside of the Autobots and Decepticons called Terrans. Terrans are the next generation of Transformers, and they have to learn not only how to be Transformers, but to not repeat the same mistakes of their forefathers and what have you. The Autobots and Decepticons. Point being is just that this show regularly has, nationalism, like tainted pride, ignorance, and bigotry against the Transformers expressed by lots of people in the show. But Mandroid mainly, they think of Transformers as stains on society, people who are not welcome on Earth, people who are thought of as different. So this entire show, no matter what faction that the Transformer is thought of as a unwelcome visitor on Earth, which can be a stand-in for many different minorities. For instance, these Transformers have been thought of to represent LGBT people, but I feel like it goes far beyond that in the picture, because the story that's being told in Transformers Earthspark is a story that can apply to many other groups. It can apply to LGBT people. It can apply to women to a large extent. It can apply to black people, African Americans, or what have you, or black people across the world. Latino people can also, especially if, and Arab people, especially as nowadays people who are thought of as not of this country, even when they are literally born here, sometimes still got people being racist against them, as people who are unwelcome visitors. So yeah, a wonderful show that I feel like, if you were wondering, is completely worth your time. It's not manipulating or hurting your children in any way. These videos are made by people who are bigots, who are not actually fans of this franchise.
This is Mandroid's lair, and these pieces represent all of us.
Oh, may I be the bobblehead?
Of course. Morgan, can you switch,
Nightshade's pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Imagine being this offended about this, dude. And it's like the only way I can really think that you wouldn't like Transformers Earthspark, and it's not because of they them shit, because the entire message of Earthspark is anti-fascism. Accepting people that are different than you, understanding people that are different than you, and welcoming people, and not being bigoted towards people because of their factional alliances or who they may not be related to, or blaming the problems that happen on Earth on all Transformers. So the only way you could not like Transformers Earthspark because it's plot and what have you is you have to be an actual Nazi. I'm sorry.
First, let's talk about what the show is actually about. The plot is rather simple. These two kids, very randomly stumble onto a mysterious energon stream that gives birth to two Transformers, Twitch and Thrash. With a magical glove bound to their hands, the kids are bonded to the new bots, with both being capable of feeling each other's emotions. The bots get to stay with the kids and their parents, as well as Bumblebee, who is tasked to teach the bots until they become capable warriors.
Why's the audio like this, man? Why are you talking so fucking slow? And I understand that I'm kind of doing a react video where I can talk as fast as I want, but you're talking like extremely fucking slow. Is this video like for 12-year-olds to make them like little fascists and shit? Is that why you're talking so slow? Speed the fuck up, bro. Get your point across. You don't got all fucking day. Matter of fact, bro, where's the what you call the fucking playback speed, bro? Speed the fuck up. Jesus, you can talk faster than that.
Every episode, although serialized, feels very episodic. The characters don't really feel like they develop. The lessons of the plot don't really carry over to the next
He just saying things because he didn't watch the show.
episode, and the best characters are the legacy ones, even if they don't even feel like themselves. What do I mean? Well,
They all feel like themselves.
supposedly a sequel. The show has branded itself.
No, it didn't say that it was a sequel to Generation 1 directly. The show said it would have references to Transformers Generation 1. It didn't say that it was a direct sequel to it. And they used Transformers Generation 1 character art as for flashback sequences. And the characters back in these times may or may not look like this in the first episode. They did it for actual fans who wanted to watch the show and see references to the old 80s characters. So, like, you can get the fuck out of here, man.
A continuation of the original series. But trust me, you wouldn't know it if they didn't tell you. Optimus and Megatron are now allies again.
Because it's not connected to Generation 1. Transformers earthspark does not take place in a Generation 1 cartoon continuity family. It couldn't. Because Megatron in the Generation 1 cartoon never had a chance to reform himself. He became Galvatron halfway between the 86 movie and what have you. And then Transformers continued with season 3, season 4, and then if you really want to get murky, Beast Wars or even the Japanese Transformers show. So this is not connected to Transformers Generation 1 in any way, shape, or form. Because in Transformers the movie 1986, Megatron died halfway between it. So this is a new continuity. You would know that if you were an actual fan of this and wasn't using it to sell hatred towards like LGBT people, I'm guessing.
This could work, as seen in Shattered Glass. It doesn't. Instead of explaining.
What about in IDW? It worked in there. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. See what I'm saying? Because it's like, yeah, you got it right. There's a good Megatron in Shattered Glass, but that's a different kind of story. Because what he doesn't like about Megatron in this show, and yeah, I'm gonna jump ahead and assume a lot of stuff about people like this, is they don't like self-introspection. They do not like people growing as characters and being better people outside of their hatred and warmongering. They want all characters, especially those who are thought of as hateful, murderous, or ignorant, to stay one way or another. Because when their audience, especially watches character developments of villains, they because a lot of these people who are like little shithead libertarians and little fucking Nazis thinking themselves as villains, right? And they see a show or cartoon character, whether it's Megatron or anybody else, reform themselves, like Tombstone in the new Spider-Man game, by the way. They don't like that. Because they want the villains to stay villains and think people are just evil for doing evil things. And shows with nuance and introspection about, with themselves threatens their status quo, threatens their way of thinking. So they can't have that.
Putting an effort to make it believable, they just make it out that Megatron switches sides from the goodness of his heart because it's the right thing to do.
They have not entirely told us why Megatron switched sides, like 100%. And of course, he became disillusioned with the Decepticon cause and the war itself. But we have not dived 100%. We had some episodes to like preview it on the outside, but we have not dived into the psychology of Megatron in this show yet. And for him to suggest so is very dishonest. Because we haven't gotten there yet.
Him willingly fight his own comrades with no remorse until the end of the season when
he clearly has remorse when he's fighting Soundwave in his fight. He asks him multiple times to stand down and tells him that it shouldn't or doesn't have to be like this. That's both his Decepticon foot soldiers and his more command officers and what have you. That includes Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream. Megatron reluctantly engages in combat against his peers because he knows it's the only way to make peace is by stopping them. Megatron's cause in Transformers Earthspark is a cause of peace and reconciliation, not a cause of, antagonism towards the bad people. Not to mention the fact we have not, again, completely dove into the story to see why Megatron switched sides. They believe that, I believe we kind of have, is because he met Doc Malto and they're like, friends and stuff like that. But, but it's more complicated than that, I'm sure, how Megatron became disillusioned with this war. But we have not completely dove into it. You would know that if you watched the show and paid attention and weren't just up here bitching about a character reforming himself. Because like I said, the point of this part of the video is to lash out against self-introspection, to lash out against a person better than themselves. Because like I said, a lot of little shit here, libertarians and young Nazis and young Republicans, they can't be told that. Because if these people introspect, they become better people and they reform themselves similar to the way Megatron did. They become better people. They might become liberal or more left-leaning people. And he wants to make self-introspection, people changing sides and stuff, look as bad as possible. I just got a feeling. I don't know for sure. It's just a feeling.
He takes orders like a good soldier until the writers decide he shouldn't. There's no natural progression, no natural conflict, and no way that he's a believable Megatron besides his design alone, which I do have to say they did pretty well on. There are some good lines from him, though, for whatever that's worth.
Clearly we've had disagreements, but when I joined the Autobots to end the war, I saw that Optimus always does what he believes is right, no matter the personal cost. Autobots, roll out! I can never tell if he means me.
Optimus doesn't quite feel like the Prime we all know and love, either. He's not a
Yes,
bad
he
guy.
does. He's the same fatherly Optimus Prime that you can imagine him to be. But the problem I will say is that, well, because of course this show is more focused on the Terrans and the children, we don't get enough screen time with Optimus Prime. But it seems as though, even though he's written slightly different, and plus this is not the first time that Optimus Prime has been written differently. Both the Align continuity movie and animated, but especially animated, Optimus Prime has been completely written different from who Optimus Prime traditionally is, while keeping some elements from the Generation 1 character.
Per se, but his ideals, morals, and motivations are pretty cloudy. He never seems to take a stance
No, they're not.
on really anything, and he doesn't seem to care about humanity above the baseline.
Yes, he does.
I care since I have to.
If you're a Transformers fan, you'll feel the difference. His design is also the worst of both the bots and the cons. He's got that Justice League Superman treatment that looked a bit off to everyone straight up.
Yeah, that was kind of stupid. I'll give him
I
that.
wish he kept his mask on at all times.
No.
That's how bad it is. I'm really glad Peter Cullen didn't come back for this train wreck. The rest of the Legacy bots didn't get much better treatment. Alita is beyond annoying. She's brash, rude, acts kind of like a frat boy.
Who?
I wish I was kidding. She literally shows up for...
Who? Did you say? Who did you say?
Acts kind of like a frat boy. I wish I was kidding. She literally...
Because he said...
Alita is beyond annoying.
That's RC, by the way. I'm gonna not assume that he's probably because you're supposed to be on a fucking script. That's not a leader one. That's RC. But I guess the subtitle corrected him. But still, no. What this is about to be like a lot of complaining about is that number one, she's not really all that annoying, and two, these people don't like strong female protagonists in media. They want everything to be about men, but especially with Transformers, they have to be implied to be strong white men. If anything's about a woman, an LGBT person, or a person of color, it's bad, and they gotta criticize the character as being annoying some way or another.
Brash, rude, acts kind of like a frat boy. I wish I was kidding. She literally shows up for one episode after the first when she's introduced, and her first act
She re-showed up in a few episodes later.
is attacking Bumblebee. She then spends the entire episode insulting and degrading. I wish she was still leading a cell on Cybertron. Wheeljack, though, he gets the best treatment. He's still a scientist, he's able to fight, he's shown to be caring. I even kind of liked his very western cowboy-esque voice.
You need to think like a scientist. Look at the data. You have a family that loves you. Here's the thing about family. You can always find new traditions with them.
That being said, the Prime Wrecker variant is still my favorite.
trying to ruin my day. You're gonna have to try harder.
They did a pretty good job
Don't tell him that the whole conflict in line continuity was about workers' rights.
on him, and the episode where he's introduced is one of my favorites in the entire series. Good job on this one. Bumblebee has his voice in this incarnation. He acts like a kid and grumbled and groans about wanting to be a hero. He learns not to one episode and then does it again the next. I didn't like his portrayal here. The war is over between the Autobots and the Decepticons, but Bumblebee acts like he wants it to keep going because he'd look cooler. Like, what? It's very against type. Obviously, they don't have...
He didn't say that.
They went through the original cartoon struggles at all, nor as if they could possibly...
That's because it's a different continuity. Like, are you stupid? You claim to be a Transformers fan, but you don't know about the different continuity families that these franchises take place in?
Characters in general. And Bumblebee is the best example of this. If you remember the horrors from the original series, like the deaths of... What do I know, right? The whole sequel tie-in is a convoluted waste of an idea, and I'm pretty sure if Shikamaru was describing it, he'd say, what a drag.
I knew this was going to be a drag, but I didn't know it was going to be this lame.
Transformers, animated. One thing that I am able to compliment is the animation. Although I find some of the humans to be a bit uncanny, like this girl with the clannad treatment, I think the characters are mostly designed and animated pretty well. What really shines though are the action scenes, especially in the choreography. Too bad they are few and far between. There's nothing spectacular here, but it is far better than I expected. The human
The show gets more action-packed as the show goes on.
factor. When it comes to the humans, this is actually something I was very worried about. And they both surprise and somehow disappoint me. We're going to start off with the two main humans. These two kids right here. I cannot stand them. They act immature the entire series. They never...
Damn, it's almost like they kids. And even when dealing with an intergalactic robot war or a an international incident against the United States government by partaking in friendships with the Transformers, that doesn't make kids become 18 years old suddenly out of fucking nowhere. Can't believe it.
really learn from any of their mistakes. They have the same problem as the bots, actually. Whenever there is a lesson to be learned, they learn it, the episode ends, then they revert back. It makes no sense. They're trying to make it serial.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's just saying things. I think this is just another thing where they just say like, they can't really say anything about the skin color, and because he hasn't yet. But he's gonna say that they're just like generically annoying because they do have character development. Both them and the Terrans have character development through the show. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
But yet it's episodic and it just doesn't fit together. It's like they've got multiple different writers for each show.
It literally is serialized, by the way, and it has different writers, but every story point bounces off of another. Things from one plot point can affect a future episode. If you actually watch all 26 episodes, you will see that.
Consensus on how the show actually is, and it really ruins these characters. They are just annoying and bratty at all times. They're not able to fight for themselves, they're not able to fend for themselves. They're just in the way, and I cannot stand that. Imagine Miko from Transformers Prime, early Miko, not how she developed, and then place her as both the main characters.
Damn, it's like she had time to develop and become more of a stronger protagonist and able to protect herself later. It's almost like this show needs to give these kids time because we only got one season. Season 2's coming up probably next year. It's almost like we need to give these kids a chance to develop as characters instead of just complaining.
Give her no development ever, and you got these two, except 10 times worse. But the parents, I actually like them. They are actually good characters. The mom can grab a gun and fight alongside the Autobots, and she does a good job. She doesn't falter on her ideals. She actually seems like she's a character through every episode without changing type, without deciding all of a sudden she's going to change to fit the narrative. She's consistently the same person. The dad, he actually gets development. I know, my mind was blown too. He starts out as this goofy dude who's just a big fan of Bumblebee. But as the series goes on, he grows to have more of a respect than a fandom. He's not like, Bumblebee, sign all my stuff every episode. He gets to the point where he's like, oh, Bumblebee doesn't want to do this? I'm not going to ask him to a million times over. I'll bring it up as a joke every once in a while, and I'm going to look smug when he answers the way I know he will, but I've learned to respect that. Not only that, but he learns to respect his kids. He learns that they're growing up. He learns that his stuff that he wants them to participate in, he can't force them into those
Damn, I thought the kids didn't have no character development.
traditions. And there's a whole episode centered around him wanting them to do something because they did every year. But when they say they don't feel like it, that it's boring, that they've grown up, that they've got something better to do, he respects that. And because of that, he actually earns Bumblebee's respect. And in that same episode, he has a pretty good fight scene too. It shows that he's capable of handling himself. He's not just a bumbling idiot. He's actually a person who has grown to be braver as the series goes on, grown to be braver as he's with the Autobots. Him and his wife are practically the only reasons I've kept with this show. Them and their history with the Autobots, and the present that they have with them now is the most interesting facet of the whole thing. Which is why it's time to talk about why it lost my support. On the very last episode of Transformers Earthspark, they decided to...
This is fucking pathetic, bro. Like, you really support an entire show and stuff like that. Because it's like this, man. Okay, if you like a show, right? You like this show. And then they put something in that challenges your ideal as a person. Instead of doing self-introspection and thinking about your bigotry towards other people, you decide like it ain't me, it's the show.
That was at the beginning. Before that scene, I would have continued watching in the second season just to make a video on it, just to see if it improved, to see if they learned, if their writing, if anything is better. But instead, they ruined that. Why? I know a lot of people are going to get mad at this, but why did that one scene ruin it? Because obviously, I already thought the show was bad, so why didn't I just want to stop? Well, what pushed me to finally...
Like, literally, dude, you could have just stopped watching if you thought it was bad anyway. Like, literally. You literally could have had it any time.
I decide that I will not watch any more episodes. It's the fact that it is manipulating kids.
How?
This show is rated TV Y7.
Why?
Now, if I put an impressionable 7-year-old in front of the TV and they hear Nightshade's pronouns are they, them, and then they hear Nightshade talk about how they don't feel like a he or a she, all that is going to do is confuse that child. Because it is
This is the classic, like, Nazi or, fascist American narrative that they use against LGBT people, and to some extent against learning black history, is that if kids hear something that's progressive, that's going to change them into being gay or, non-binary or something like that, it's going to confuse you. Because let me tell you something. The point why people do this and why schools do this, like, for instance, I remember, like I talked about it previously, is that I believe I did it in Tim Pool video, where we had a meeting, right, about diversity and treating people with respect. And they do this to jump ahead of people like you, so you can't teach kids to be bigoted. They teach people that, hey, these kind of people exist, just treat them with the same respect and courtesy that you would treat anybody else. Most kids, to a certain extent, have already decided if they want to be a he or a she. And they might change their mind later. But the point of this is when you see people who are identifying themselves as different, you do not judge or manipulate them. You treat them as you would treat anybody else. And like I said, they jump ahead of people like you. Because literally right now, you're like promoting backwards fucking narratives. This is like saying that people have either a white savior complex or a white guilt because they learned slavery happened. Like, you can't teach kids anything about people being different than a straight white person, because if you do, they become they thems or whatever. Does this sound honest? Like, and I gotta ask, like, if it's any like conservative or conservative leaning person, or even if you're a fascist, like, does this sound like credible and fair to you? This is worse than that Gothic police brutality shit. We're simply teaching kids that certain types of people exist. That's a bad thing. Whatever.
That question onto them. It is making them think, oh, do I feel like a he or a she? You should not do that to a kid. That is, you're an utter manipulation, and it is disgusting. And if you...
And then it statistically has been proven false. There's no such thing as like rapid onset gender dysphoria or none of this bullshit. People who make these life-changing decisions don't make them until after puberty. But for the most part, your child would probably grow up normal to be a straight man or a straight woman. The point of this show is to teach kids that if they find somebody in their life who identifies as they or them, they just call them they or them. And to not disrespect and treat people like shit because they're identifying differently from the norm.
Don't know that this is coming up. You might not even know that your kid heard that. You might not know that your kid now has a question in the back of their mind.
Good. I'm glad they fucking heard it. If I had kids, I want them to hear shit like that before they hear shit like this, telling them that and it's like, notice how you're skirting around it. So what's wrong with somebody being a they or a them? What's wrong with somebody being non-binary? What's wrong with it? Why does it bother you? This is a personal, political, or religious problem. These people exist and they deserve the same courtesy and respect as us he, hims, and she, hers do. So what the fuck is your point? What's your problem, dude? Why did it offend you? Like, you won't actually say it. It's because you're a bigot. But it's just like, this is so fucking empty and vague. This is just like the previous video I just went over. Like, y'all have these like small little nitpick issues with shit, but y'all never want to directly talk about why y'all have a problem with this people. Just say that you hate LGBT people, that you hate non-binary people. You think the shit is weird. Just say that. Why the fuck do we have to go through all this? Well, it's going to teach your kids to be gay, and then it's manipulating kids, and imagine if your kids heard it first, and what if your kids don't get confused, and which doesn't, statistically is proven not to happen. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
That they didn't before they started watching Transformers Earthspark. It is gaslighting. They are gaslighting your child to be confused. That is what is happening. That is what that is. That is what it is doing. You want to put that in a show that is TV 14? Sure, it's still doing the same thing, but at least by that point, I would have had time to sit down with my kid and say, you're going to meet people with different ideas, different opinions, different...
But they do it before you because you wasn't going to do that. 9 times out of 10, people like you sit down with your children, or like, not even sit down with them and talk about it. You are like a raving fucking lunatic. People like you are horrible fucking parents. Go around the house calling, saying that F words are taking over the world, and that blacks need to be put back in line. And you don't talk to your kids about socio-political issues. You just imply it a lot, your bigotry, and you pass it on to the next generation. And then they have to decide or find a way around your beliefs to become their own person. Or, not even just that, a lot of you people are like Christian fascists, and you indoctrinate your kids to hate people that are different than them. You got one or the other mixture between you conservative fuckheads.
Perceptions, different emotions, different this, and this. I would be able to prepare them as a parent to be respectful.
And not to mention the fact that most people that are watching Transformers nowadays anyway aren't even kids. Most people that watch Transformers nowadays are adults. Transformers is a old 40, 37-year-old show. I'm not saying that there's not new kid fans and what have you, but it's for the most part watched and viewed by adults. Kids don't watch Transformers or buy the toys anymore. It's bought by and like seen by adults. But even if it is seen by kids, they are jumping in front of people like you. People like you are not going to teach your children to treat everybody with respect and courtesy. You're going to subtly teach your kids bigotry. Like, you'll say shit like, oh, LGBT people act like they're owed everything. That's the type of shit y'all say. Y'all don't actually teach y'all kids to be better people.
Idea, I wouldn't have to worry about my kid getting that implanted in their head before I can talk to them first. That's not something I should have to worry about if I had a kid watching a kid's show on TV. My kid should not be concerned.
Can you please tell me what's wrong with the person being LGBT or non-binary? If you give me like a good reason, I will refute it. But until you do that,
about pronouns, about gender identity, about sexual orientation, this stuff shouldn't pop up.
What did that have to do with sexual orientation? While some of this stuff can be cringe and kind of libtardy, I will say at the end of the day, teaching people that, teaching young children about minorities before people like you is a definite win. Because like I said, people like you teach their children to hate and disrespect people that are minorities and teach them weird ass stereotypes about people. So it's good that these cartoons and movies jump ahead of people like you. I'm done with this video. I'm not going to get anything else out of it but a bunch of fucking whining.